I believe purpose is a verb. It's something that we do in our everyday lives when we choose to use our gifts, like the things that we're good at, in keeping with our values, the things that we care about, to make a positive impact on the lives of others. It's the idea of actions that are taken with others, for others, but also in community. Instead of an ego you mentality toward the world, instead of thinking me, 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 and thinking all about ego, taking an eco you approach, where you're thinking about not just you and how you can get to the top, but how you can work in community with others to both succeed yourself and to help others in your community succeed.
We're recording this on a really interesting day for me. So 5 years ago today, my business was ripped away from me. And that was one of those defining moments because I thought I was living into my purpose.
Yeah.
But what I found also was that my identity was tied to that position, that business, and success in that world. And so I've just often quipped that you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
Oh, amen to that.
At the same point, like what I realized through my coach helping me get out, my head out of the gutter, was that my purpose actually, a lot of it really didn't change, just the vehicle did.
Exactly. Okay. I completely agree. And congratulations on the 5-year anniversary of that, because that sparked a real realization about who you are and how you live your purpose in everyday life, right?
Yeah.
You can live your purpose in various different careers, in various different roles that you play, and it's still your purpose.
This is Sparta!
Welcome back to Spartan Leadership. I'm your host, Josh Kosnick, and this is your podcast for leadership, inspiration, and impact. And today will be no different. We're filming from the house today, so a little bit different setting than you are typically used to, but that makes it all the more fun. And we got a great guest. I'm so excited for this conversation about purpose. Christine Whelan, let me give you a proper introduction here. So she spent her entire career studying one of the questions almost everyone asks, but very few people answer well. What gives life real meaning? So Dr. Christine Whelan is known as the Purpose Professor at Emory University, where she helps lead purpose and flourishing initiatives. And she's also a fellow at the Center for Healthy Minds right here at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. She has built her work around translating research into evidence-based strategies for happiness, purpose, and daily thriving. She's authored multiple books, including The Big Picture and Finding Your Purpose. And what makes her work especially compelling is that she doesn't treat purpose like a slogan or a branding exercise. She treats it as something lived, built, and practiced. What I'm most interested in today is her conviction that purpose is pro-social. I want to get into the definition of that. And that it's not just something we discover within ourselves, but something we live with and for other people in community, through responsibility, contribution, and service. Christine, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really glad to be here.
This is awesome. This is going to be a great conversation. As we were talking pre-show, this is something so many struggle with.
Yes.
And yet it is, my beliefs, and I think yours as well, like we're uniquely gifted with definitive purpose from God.
And we can live it out every day by choice. And we can choose every day to put purpose into action.
That's awesome. It's an awesome way to start. Let's frame this up. All right. So let's start with a little backstory, because I gave you a really nice introduction with all the things. Actually, that's probably even just a fraction of the things you've done. But
that was a really nice introduction, though. I like it. I like it. I was going to ask you to borrow it. We could use it for podium introductions in the future.
I've had that same experience. Someone introduces me on a podcast. I'm like, can I just put you in my pocket anywhere?
That's right.
So let's start a little backstory. What were the defining moments that shaped how you began thinking seriously about purpose, happiness, and what makes a life meaningful?
I have always been interested in advice. Who gives it, who takes it, and really why we spend our money on it, even why we sort of value it enough to pay for it. And when I was in graduate school, I was at Oxford, and everybody else was studying like the appropriate things to study at Oxford, like, I don't know, ancient history and Chaucer. And I decided to study self-help books. And so I wrote my PhD thesis, my doctoral dissertation on who reads self-help. Does any of it work? How does it transform your life? And the reason why I was so interested in that was because I had been studying all the academic literature on what the good life means. I did my master's thesis on changing dating and marriage patterns. I studied, advice in magazines. But then I got to this point of, okay, well, there's the academic stuff, but how does it actually get to real people in our everyday lives? And that really was the self-help industry, the leadership industry. And so I was interested in knowing how that industry packaged the ideas, because I really believe that all of us are looking for the best life that we can have, but often we think it's something that we can, do in 5 easy steps, or that we can take a shortcut or a quick fix or something like that. And while that is tempting, we know that that doesn't really work for lasting change. And so I was always interested in what actually does work. How, even more than happiness, how can you live a life of purpose and meaning?
That's fascinating. So I was just sitting here thinking, as you were describing that, is there, based on all your research, like an average age someone finds purpose?
Oh, finds purpose? Oh, I thought you were so that's interesting. No, there isn't. It's not as far as I know. I don't know that anyone's ever even asked. That is a great question. The reason why I don't think that researchers have asked is because I'm not really sure you find purpose just once. Mm-hmm. I believe purpose is a verb. It's something that we do in our everyday lives when we choose to use our gifts, like the things that we're good at, in keeping with our values, the things that we care about, to make a positive impact on the lives of others. And that's my definition of purpose. So, by the way, academics have all sorts of definitions of purpose.
Yeah.
The traditional academic definition is your singular life aim, the one thing you are called to do, right? And that would be, then you could find that, right? Because that's that one thing, right? For me, I don't know. I mean, I contain multitudes. I'm not just one thing. I want to be able to do different things in my life. I have purposes around my family life and my calling there. I have purpose in my career. Yes, I probably have some level of overarching things that I do in both my career and my family. But rather than worry about that one overarching thing, I like this idea of defining purpose as your gifts in keeping with your values to make a positive impact on the lives of others. Because then every single day I can say, what is my purpose today?
Yeah.
How do I want to use my gifts in keeping with my values today to make a positive impact on people? And I can be really specific, because on a Tuesday, I may be using different gifts than I'm going to use on Sunday. And it doesn't mean that those gifts are any less important or more important. It's just that today I choose to do this in keeping with these values that I choose to prioritize today, so that I can serve the people I feel called to serve today.
That's awesome, because it was interesting. We're recording this on a really interesting day for me. So 5 years ago today, my business was ripped away from me. And that was one of those defining moments, because I thought I was living into my purpose.
Yeah.
But what I found also was that my identity was tied to that position, that business, and success in that world. And my plan was, from age 35 to 55, was to run that business as well as I possibly could, grow within that, grow the business as big as possible, have as big of impact as possible, and serve others. And then that's ripped away. And so I've just often quipped that, you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
Oh, amen to that.
At the same point, like, what I realized through my coach helping me get out, my head out of the gutter, was that my purpose, actually, a lot of it really didn't change. Just the vehicle did.
Exactly. Okay. I completely agree. And congratulations on the 5-year anniversary of that, because that sparked a real realization about who you are and how you live your purpose in everyday life, right?
Yeah.
You can live your purpose in various different careers, in various different roles that you play. And it's still your purpose. So one of the things that I think is very challenging for people who give their all into a company, into a career, into raising a family, is that when that chapter ends, as chapters do end in our lives, right? We end up in this time of transition. And this actually is my new fascination right now. Purpose in times of transition. Purpose becomes so much more salient in times of transition. It really matters in times of transition. And interestingly enough, that's when people are more likely to ask those questions of purpose and meaning as well.
Mm-hmm.
When things are going well, when you're focused on the thing that you feel called to do, you often don't even really think about it as purpose. You just think about, the next thing on your to-do list, and you think about the fact that you're really building something and you're doing well and this is good, right? So the idea of taking time to think about how you're going to live with purpose today often doesn't come to the top of your to-do list. But boy, howdy, when things get rough, all of a sudden people start asking those big questions. And so one of the things that I'm really interested in is, and I'm working on right now, is whether there are sort of some core questions that people ask in times of transition around purpose that kind of span the many life transitions. So for example, when kids are heading into college and going out of college, graduating, those are times of transition. When you're starting a career, when you're making a career transition, when you're retiring, those are all times of transition. But it's even in your personal life. As a couple is getting married, that idea of purpose and what is our purpose now as two people starting a family, that's a time of transition. Are there similarities among these times of transition where we can kind of ask these questions so that it's almost like a just-in-time kind of guide to purpose when you need it most?
I think there probably is, and I love the thought-provoking nature of where you're going down. So I was thinking about two instances. One we were talking about before the show, someone exiting their business. But also, let's start with a stay-at-home mom that's now going to become an empty nester.
Yeah.
Because that's a big transition when they're pouring their whole existence into these kids. And then all the kids, now you did your job.
Right.
They're now great adults.
Yes.
That's a big transition for a lot of stay-at-home, well, not just moms, but dads as well nowadays.
Absolutely. And there's some sadness associated with that role that you cherished ending, as it is with somebody leaving a startup or a company that they've poured their heart into, right? And so the advice that I would give for everybody, as I'm researching this book, the advice that I'm coming to right now is that the purpose that you had in your previous role was not tied to your role. It was tied to your gifts, your values, and who you want to serve. So separating those questions of the gifts, the values, and who you want to serve in all aspects of your life, separating it from a particular role allows you then to say, all right, if I am really passionate about using my gift for organization, if I don't need to use it in a business context, if I don't need to use it around raising my kids, where can I use it? And that is a much easier question than how do I, who am I in this next chapter? So breaking it into small pieces, I'm a really big fan that when there's a lot of research on this too. When you take a daunting task and you break it into small steps, right? You can turn it hopefully into a pleasurable exploration of possibilities, because you can have this, I think, the thing where you do something, you get the feedback on it, and that builds what researchers call self-efficacy. You get that boost of, hey, great, I actually accomplished this. And when you accomplish the small thing, as you know, you are much more likely and excited to accomplish the next small thing that leads to the big thing.
Yep. No, that's really good. I'll tell you what I did. I took so I was probably 3 to 4 months into my grieving process of this business. And I took a piece of paper and made a T-chart. And unlike putting numbers on most T-charts, I put on the left side, what did I love about my previous world? And on the right side, what did I dislike?
Yeah.
And I started creating those lists. And then I asked myself a really important question. as I formulated that list, it was, what if I could design a world where I only did the stuff on the left side that I loved and eliminated, or at the very least mitigated, the stuff on the right? And that's what led me to coaching and working with business owners, because as you look, and speaking, writing the book, all the different things that it's led to since then. But what was interesting about it was I actually could design a world like that.
Yes.
Just having that epiphany that I didn't, like in my previous role in the company that I was running, I did have to deal with compliance. I did have to deal with narcissistic employees. I did have to deal with testing and certain things that I just didn't find enjoyable, but it was part of the job. And so if I could design a world that I only did the stuff that I was gifted at and that I love to do, that puts us in a more joyful state automatically. Oh, and I can make money doing this and build a business through that and build a life around it. That was really appealing to me. Now, then, okay, you have that epiphany. Now the work comes in, but you're purposeful towards that work.
Exactly. And what was great about it is that you were doing it for yourself, your real self, not for an imagined either ideal self or the shoulds associated. Yeah. You were really doing it based on your values. And I had a very similar experience, but it was really at sort of the beginning of my career. I graduated with my PhD, and I had, instead of celebrating that night, I looked in the mirror and I burst into tears because I realized that I had thought that my purpose was to get a PhD. I mean, that was what I had poured my heart and soul into. You know, it's kind of hard. Yeah. It's a lot of work. And I was sitting there crying and saying, have I made a mistake? Did I put all my eggs in the wrong basket? And I called my mother, and my mother said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I meant to tell you that would probably happen. I burst into tears as well when I got my PhD." And I said, "Okay, well, did you figure it out? Why were you crying?" And she said, "Oh, I have no idea." So I made it kind of a job to sort of try to figure out why I felt this way. And in part, on the surface, I felt this way because it was still me. I looked the same. I still didn't have a boyfriend. I still didn't have a job. You know, nothing had changed. But I also realized that it was important for me to figure out who I was and what I wanted to do, not all of the things that maybe the world thought I should do or to check other people's boxes. And so when I got back home, I took a notepad into Central Park. I grew up in New York City, and I wandered around Central Park trying to think of what I should do with my job. And the only thing I left Central Park with that day was I wanted whatever I did to be good cocktail party conversation. Now, you could say that sounds ridiculously frivolous.
In New York, you just say, well, I'm in the financial world.
Well, exactly. But that's not good cocktail. That didn't meet my definition of good cocktail party conversation. Okay. So good cocktail party conversation for me meant that somebody would say, "Oh," and then they would have something to say back from their own personal lived experience. And I realized from that what I was really interested in is studying things and working in fields that people emotionally cared about. So if somebody asks me what I do, I say, well, I study purpose, happiness, and meaning in life. And 10 out of 10 times, people will have something to say back that involves them. They'll say, "Really? I could use some, I want to figure that out." Or, "Wow, I just had this recent experience that I want to tell you about." And when I realized that what I was actually interested in was talking to people, real people at cocktail parties about my work, it guided me away from a tenure track position in teaching, because I would have had to publish in academic journals. And I actually wasn't interested in publishing in academic journals. I wanted to publish books that a lot of people would read and that we could talk about at cocktail parties. And, I tell this to my students all the time because I love teaching. Teaching is my, teaching and parenting are my passions. And when I work with young adults, they say, "Well, how did you become, how did you get to do what you're doing?" And I said, well, I think the first bit is that I realized that what I wanted to do was a little bit different than all the rules and regulations of what the traditional path for me was. So what you did is you followed the traditional path, the way to do it for a while. And then when you had the opportunity to do something different, you got to focus on the side of the column that was all about what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I think there's a piece in there that we may want to touch on or get your expertise on. Is one of the things I had an epiphany about is the climb, because people, as abruptly and brutally as my world came crashing down, I had got some questions like, was it worth it?
Yeah.
And I would even question myself, was that worth it? And I would unequivocally say yes, because it got to me to where I was. But one of the epiphanies I had was I was being interviewed on a podcast, and I usually get interviewed for leadership or finding an integrated balance. I hate the word balance, work-life balance, so I use integration or harmony.
Yeah.
Usually those are my topics, but we somehow got into a recruiting conversation. And those are actually in my wheelhouse, but I had forgotten that it was in my wheelhouse, because that's not what people had typically talked to me about. So the climb allowed me to learn how to be really good at sales.
Yes.
It taught me how to be really good at recruiting. It taught me how to build a great culture, run great business finances, all those different things. I didn't forget just because the rug got pulled out from under me.
Nope.
And so those led into being able to be really good at what I'm doing today and helping others, because the war on talent, all that stuff people know about. I was like, okay, tell me about your recruiting process. Tell me about your onboarding process. Tell me about your development process of your people. I don't have any of that. All right, so this is where we need to start. If you want to win the war on talent for your business, we got to start here and start building that out. And I learned that on the climb.
Yeah.
If I hadn't gone through what I went through, I wouldn't be an expert in that either.
Absolutely. You can, and a lot of it is useful in various different aspects of your life. And if not all of it is, that's okay too. Because you can think about it as filming a movie, right? Some stuff's going to end up on the cutting room floor. That doesn't mean, so just because it doesn't end up in the iteration of the movie that you're making right now, doesn't mean that it wasn't important for your journey to teach you some skills that are going in the movie.
Yeah. In fact, some of the comedy outtakes are some of my favorites. Like, how did that not make it in the movie?
That's right. Exactly. That's right. That's how they get us to watch the credits now, right? They put those really funny things at the end.
Yeah, that's right. So one of the things I left out of your bio was that you're a mom of 5 between 10 and 17.
Yes.
And so the question that came to mind was, what are parents getting right versus what are they getting wrong as it pertains to your expertise in helping raise kids with purpose and maybe not having to go through the sifting and winnowing throughout their whole life? Like, I'm very observant by nature, and I watch parents do their thing, and I'm not judging by any means, but I'm like, that's not going to equip them for society. Like I've referred to and I've talked about on the podcast before, there used to be the helicopter parents, and maybe that still exists. But now what I'm seeing more of is the snowplow parents. And I don't know if you've heard this term, but it's plowing all the kids' problems out of their way. And that's just not real life, because you're not going to be there for them on this job interview or on this other piece of hardship that they're going to go through as an adult. So I go back to the question, what do they get? What are us parents, society getting right versus what are they getting wrong?
So one of the things that was important to me was to show, not tell in my parenting. And so and kids watch, right? So you can talk as much as you want about values. And if you're not living them yourself in your family life, and if you don't believe in them yourself, it's not going to work, right? So and by the way, you don't have to have other people's values. You can have your own set of values and teach your own set of values to your kids, right? You just actually have to own what they are and figure out what's important to you. So, for example, I grew up in New York City, and people have this idea about New Yorkers that everybody's like scowling all the time and no one looks you in the eye. But actually, it's a city that is where people help each other, and there is a fair amount of trust because we're all mushed together all the time. So for me, it was very important to teach my kids that most people are good people, and that we can all be mushed together all the time, and that's okay. We work it out and we figure it out, and that if you see someone in need, you're going to you help them, because not only will helping somebody else help them, but it also is going to make you feel good as well. So I won't even say I tried to do that. That is who I am. That is what I did, and that's what I modeled for the kids, which I think has been really, they are now exhibiting that as well. I think I'm very reluctant to give parenting advice because I feel like a bolt of lightning will come down and, it's just, there are all sorts
Speak
of
from your expertise.
And there's always,
because you're right. Like
right,
everyone to raise their kids differently. But
parenting advice is really tough. I once did a Today Show thing during the pandemic on perfectly imperfect parenting, which I loved. Because I was like, oh, I can be an expert on perfectly imperfect parenting, right? So perfectly imperfect parenting advice. I really set a lot of rules for my kids when they were very young, and I was a fairly strict parent. Like you just couldn't get away with a lot. Up till the age of 5, it was pretty rule. It was pretty rule bound, lots of bedtimes and this and that. What's awesome now is that I feel like it kind of worked because I don't have to have a lot. They police themselves. And what that can do for me is that I can then encourage them to take more risks and to do other things, because they have those core values, of hard work and of understanding that it is not the grade that they get, but the effort that they put in. Those are the kinds of things that I try to instill in them young. When it comes to purpose, I would really love to be able to tell you that every Sunday our family sits down and we do a family purpose statement. I tried that. Oh man, that didn't work. So when you're the mom who studies purpose, you can't really talk to your kids about purpose too much. You can lead by example. So that's what
actions are caught, not taught. I've said it many times. So they're very observant. And there's this time where my kids were asked, "Do you like Daddy's job before or after?"
Yeah.
All this major life change happened for all of us, and they all said they like my job now. Mm-hmm. Now, whether that's because we have the farm here or not, but what I like to say it is that they like me better.
Yeah.
They observe me differently.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what they're observing. But I think that the values conversation is very important with kids. This is what we value and what we exhibit. And it's just interesting. Like you said, most people are good people.
Yeah.
And yet on the news or social media, we only see the bad examples. Like, just take it to the political spheres. Like, I know some amazing Republican citizens, and I also know some amazing Democrat citizens. And I try not to identify with either party because it puts us in the trap that, the powers that be want, divided. And so it's just exhibiting those and talking about them and having them think about it and become scientists of themselves, essentially.
Exactly. And allowing them the ability to fail a little bit too, to test it out and see what doesn't work and what does work. Because that, I think, to your snowplow parents' perspective is a big one. I do think that I'm very passionate about communicating this idea of pro-social behavior to young people, because that seems to be increasingly absent.
What's the definition of pro-social?
So pro-social is behavior that is not just for yourself, but for yourself and others. It is behavior that is done for the benefit of others, but it doesn't mean that it can't be for your own benefit either, right? So it's not selfless behavior. It's not self-sacrifice. It's the idea of actions that are taken with others, for others, but also in community. And I feel like the messaging that our young people have gotten is an increasingly individualistic and scared message that you can't do that because either you won't get ahead or someone will hurt you or that there's a threat associated with being in community.
Kind of scarcity mentality versus abundance.
It is definitely a scarcity versus abundance. And it's also a trust versus distrust. Mm-hmm. So I see this in the emails that young people send that are not nice, right? They are, or the ways that they text with an Uber Eats delivery person. the idea that you want to be civil and kind and assume the best in others seems to be a message that we need to get across to our young people a whole lot more right now. And I understand why they are getting these negative messages. All of our news media is all negative, and all the stuff that is in their news feeds is scary stuff. And I say news feeds, I probably mean their TikTok and their YouTube feeds, right? And their Instagram feeds. But pro-social behavior means taking what Jenny Crocker, who's a researcher, she called it, instead of an ego you mentality toward the world, instead of thinking me, and thinking all about ego, taking an eco you approach, where you're thinking about not just you and how you can get to the top, but how you can work in community with others to both succeed yourself and to help others in your community succeed. And so that kind of, that eco-you mentality is one of pro-social behavior that I'm not feeling like we as a society have done a great job getting through to our young people. And I think that's going to hurt our society long term unless we can kind of get these messages out there.
Yeah. Two things came to mind. I think everyone should be in the service industry, every kid.
Oh, yes.
So they can learn more social behavior and see how people are treated and have a respect for that. But also, secondly, we've been complimented on our kids' maturity for their ages.
Yes.
And one of the things that I've known that we did right, not knowingly at the time, we weren't as strict as you were up until 5. And so there's the dichotomy, right? Not right or wrong.
No, it's not right or wrong. Yeah.
We never had assigned bedtimes or nap times or stuff of that nature because we didn't want to conform our lives to the baby or the kids and that. So one of the things that we recognize, how did they become more mature? Well, first of all, leading by example, but also putting them in social settings with adults.
Absolutely.
And so they were with us at different things. We didn't just say, oh, we got to leave because bedtime's 7. Like they may fall asleep in the stroller or whatever it may be, and then go on living our lives, not being beholden to the kids' prescribed schedule. And I think that's one of the things that we've gotten right. But also, like, we're not shielding them from adults and shielding them from failure and allowing them to. And when they do fail, we have conversations about it.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, what do you think you could have done better?
Yeah.
Like, how are you feeling right now? How are you processing that?
Yeah.
And having them think through it, not giving them the answers.
Yeah.
And it's because I just know, like, I've failed so many times in my life, and every time I've gotten better. So I know that failure is not something to be scared of.
My son, who plays chess, has a wonderful shirt that says, I never lose. Either I win or I learn.
It's one of my favorite quotes. I knew where you were going.
You knew exactly where I was going with this. And what I love about it, and by the way, what I love about chess for kids is that it really teaches that. It teaches you to shake hands at the beginning, right? And to shake hands at the end. It teaches you that you are going to lose a lot, and you're going to be upset, and you're going to have to pull yourself back together and play the next round. And my son's been playing chess for 5 years now, and I feel like those kinds of abilities to fail and then to see that you can learn from it. And I mean, I guess it's not even failing, to lose, to learn from it, and then to try again. Those are really awesome life skills.
Yeah. It's so interesting because these kids, like, were at a baseball game last night for my son, 7, 8 years old. They're on the field, and the kid hit a really nice hit, but it went right to a defender. And he was pouting on his way back to the dugout, and we're like, hey, that was a good hit. It just happened to go right to a defender.
Yeah.
Like, pick your head up. It was a good hit.
Yeah.
Like, there's just sometimes nothing you can do.
I absolutely. And the thing about teaching purpose to young people is that when it goes right to a defender and when they don't get what they want, all of us, we can think about, did I do what I wanted to, what I set out to do? Did I use my gifts in keeping with my values to help the team in the way that I wanted to? I tried. I did the thing that I set out to do. And then you can give yourself credit. Because the other piece that we have not talked about around this is all too often when people think about pro-social behavior, about purpose, it almost comes across as a, I'm failing in this and I need to do better. I need to have a new, section of my planner devoted to this. I need to add this. Well, for a lot of us, you're doing it already in your everyday life. And if you gave yourself a little more credit for the purposeful actions you're taking, for the values that you're living, for the strengths that you're using, for the people that you're positively impacting, wow. I mean, when I do that, at the end of the day, I feel much better about how I spent my time and what I've done in the day. And that's to me, that is one of the gifts of thinking about this, is not that it's another thing on your to-do list, but that it is giving you the ability to say, yes, I am living in keeping with my values. And that does tend to lead to a happier and more purposeful life.
Glad you brought up the word happier, because that's something I want to talk about. So you talk about happiness in your bio, stuff of that nature. What do you think our culture is getting most wrong about the pursuit of happiness?
Okay. So I'm glad you said the pursuit of happiness, because I want to go there as well. But so happy is basically one of my least favorite words, because when I give speeches, I often ask people to define happiness. And we get all these great definitions of happiness, but a lot of the definitions seem like they're polar opposite. So some people say excitement and joy, and other people say peace and serenity. All of those are true. But happiness is this big umbrella, right? And when you have a big umbrella word, like, how are you doing? Fine. Like, what does that mean?
What does fine mean?
What does fine mean? What does happiness mean?
That's a teenage answer.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no. I think the teenage answer is,
Bruh.
Right, exactly. I still can't get it right. I can't get my chin to do that. Yeah. So the thing about a meaningful and purposeful life is that it's not pointed toward happiness, because happiness is the byproduct of living a life of values and service and doing all the things that matter to you. It's not to say that there cannot be happiness in a life of purpose. In fact, that's really far from the truth. But when we pursue happiness currently in the way that we are kind of advertised to and encouraged to pursue happiness, it's what Aristotle would have called hedonic happiness. It's about pleasure in the moment. It's about fun. It's about excitement. And there is nothing wrong with hedonic happiness. Hedonic happiness is awesome. But if you are constantly pursuing hedonic happiness, you're going to feel empty, because you're always looking for the next hit. You're always looking for the next thrill. Aristotle also had the definition of eudaimonic happiness. And eudaimonic happiness is that sense of a life well lived, a sense that I have used my values, put my values into everyday life in a way that is meaningful for me. Now, most of us will think, oh, okay, well then forget about hedonic happiness. You should only focus on eudaimonic happiness, because that's the really important stuff. That's kind of a mistake too, right? Mm-hmm. You want to have a balance of both. I always tell my students that I wish them a life of eudaimonic happiness with a lot of hedonic happiness along the way. So when we think about happiness, and when we think about happiness, especially this year around the anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, the phrase life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, wow, the history there is intense. But what I just learned in the last month was that it really matters where the period is put in the Declaration of Independence. Do you know about this?
I've heard a little bit, but please go into it.
So when the Declaration of Independence was written, there was a publisher that wanted to scoop the printing of it. And so the first edition that came out was this scooped edition by a publisher who, like a good journalist, saw a run-on sentence and put a period at the end of after life, liberty, at the pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, period. But that actually was the beginning of a larger clause about why the founding fathers were doing what they were doing and why we were declaring independence. And the way the sentence ends really shows that it is not the individual pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that we're really going for. But really, we're going for that so that we can come together as a nation and a people in community and build something that both helps us as individuals and helps the larger society.
The eco and the echo.
It is. It's the eco you and the ego you. And it's those things coming together all in one sentence. And when I learned that, I was so pleased, because often we think of the pursuit of happiness as an individual pursuit that the government should offer me, that our country should be around the idea of what is going to make me the most happy. And general social survey research shows that has changed in terms of people's responses to it over time a lot. In the 1950s, if you asked, when the social survey asked, "Are you happy?" and what defines your happiness, people would say they were happy if they were fulfilling their social roles, if they felt that they were a good mother and father, if they were a good worker, if they were a good Rotarian. By 1970, if you asked, what makes you happy and do you feel like you are happy? People already, it was starting to plummet, because people were saying, am I happy inside of me? Am I getting all the happiness that I can?
In just 2 decades.
In just 2 decades, it began. And by the way, that is also at the same time where the sale of self-help books began to rise exponentially, because we saw that we felt that we were not as happy as we should be, and we wanted to fix it. And we wanted to fix it by turning inward to ourselves. And from 1960 to about 1980, I call it the sort of inner-directed part of the self-help movement, where it was really solipsistic. It was all me, me, me. Am I broken? How can I fix me? How can I disentangle from relationships that don't serve me? How can I, that period of self-help, while, they all have their benefits, the more we think about our individual happiness, the harder it is to find. The more we think about how we can use our gifts in keeping with our values to actually help others along the way, the happier we as individuals will be. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't mean you can't have fun. You can have a ton of fun along the way. But if the pursuit is more toward the eco rather than the ego, you're much more likely to have the lasting happiness that you seek.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, is it feel better to receive a gift or give a gift? And the vast majority is give a gift.
Absolutely. And by the way, that research is worldwide. So they've done research on if somebody, you're given $20 and you can either spend it on yourself or you can spend it on someone else. They do this no matter how rich you are, no matter what country you're in, no matter what language you speak, what faith background you have. You are happy. You tend to have a boost of well-being when you do something for someone else.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you've talked about the purpose gap.
Yeah.
And between frontline workers and executive leadership. And I think this is an important one to make sure we get in here. So what does it reveal about an organization when leaders talk meaning, but the people closest to the work feel disconnected from it?
It's just like our discussion about parenting. If you as a manager are talking about purpose, or bringing someone like me in to come speak to your people about purpose, but you as a manager are not interested in doing it with your executive team as well, that's gonna not work. I mean, it's gonna be a problem. Just like the kids see through it when the parents say one thing and do something else, your workers do as well. So first of all, management has to practice what they preach. If the purpose of thinking through purpose is not a priority for your organization right now, that's okay. But don't bring it in for some people and not do it yourself.
Yeah.
The other purpose gap, though, is that often managers will bring in purpose folks like me only for the executive team and ignore the frontline workers. And this is something that honestly, I have not had a lot of traction getting companies to buy into with me. But I really believe that purpose is not only for the educated and the wealthy and those who are have the luxury of thinking about this. My definition of purpose is available for everybody, every day. And I believe companies would run better, be happy, that their employees would feel more fulfilled in their jobs. They would have more productivity if we brought purpose out of the boardroom and into some real actionable discussions with frontline workers. So I've really wanted to do that. Not a lot of companies want me to talk to their frontline workers though. They're much more comfortable having me talk to executives.
So I think you'd be better served in more of an entrepreneurial company than a corporation.
I think that's
corporation only serves the bottom line.
Yeah.
Shareholders.
Yeah.
And that's why I choose to work in entrepreneur spaces. They're making the real change. They're typically the ones that build the communities around us.
Yeah.
And they're not so numbers focused. And obviously they got to run a profitable business. But it's interesting you say that. This book I read about 15 years ago, you'd put it in the self-help space probably, but they tell a parable. It's called The Dream Manager. And it was a janitorial service company that was bleeding because of turnover. Mm-hmm. And one of the executives had an idea to, everyone has dreams. And why don't we help our people achieve those dreams, whether it's first immigrant family to own a home here in the U.S. or take a vacation or whatever it may be. And so they created a role that was part financial advisor, part life coach, and hired that person. And then they realized that it started fixing their retention issues. And then they end up getting to 11 on staff as they continue to grow. And they dropped their retention problem from turnover of over 400% to down to 12%. But they also realized in that time, hey, we're going to have to start letting people go because they're meant for more. To start their own business or whatever it may be. And at first the owner's like, are you crazy? We fixed this issue because of this. So the goal isn't to have 0% turnover either, because people have dreams and want to help them achieve those outs, whether it's inside the company or out. But just exactly to what you're speaking is people all are wired to have a purpose. They all have dreams. Yeah. And if you as a company aren't, or you as a leader aren't helping them fulfill those, they'll find a leader that does.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, it's both the don't talk the talk unless you're going to walk the walk as a leader, and realize that walking the walk is not just for you, but for everybody. Mm-hmm. Right. And so it comes together. And honestly, this is to me, this is an inspirational message for companies. However, I want to flag that a lot of companies roll their eyes when they hear, a lot of executives roll their eyes when they hear about purpose. I can tell you this because I spoke to a group of executives, and one of them said to me, listen, I manage people who just push a blue button or a red button. I don't care about their purpose. I don't want them coming into my office and telling me their problems. I just need them to push the button. In the moment, I will tell you, I'd like to tell you I had
deep breath.
Yes. Yeah. In the moment, I will tell you, I was so stunned that I did not say that I did not have the right comeback. It took me a day to calm down after this because I was so horrified by this statement and realizing that he wasn't alone. This is really pervasive throughout the industry. And then I realized, the guy that's quote unquote just pushing the blue button or the red button, how often does he make a mistake? How often does he push the blue button when he should be pushing the red button? Do you think if he actually cared more and understood the purpose of the blue button and the purpose of the red button, his role in the company and the importance of his job, do you think that he would be more likely to make the right choice? And the answer, of course, is yes, right? When we believe that what we are doing, when we know that what we are doing is important, because all of these jobs are important, even if it's just pushing the blue button or the red button, those lead to a whole set of chain reactions that are going to cost the company money, that might create a product that could be harmful or not harmful, that could set off a whole chain of events. When you understand why you are doing what you're doing, well, then you sit up a little straighter.
Yeah.
And you do a better job.
Yeah, because you care.
because you care.
Yeah. There's this Harris poll that was done on thousands of employees, and I teach this in some of my EOS coaching. And 1 in 3 people don't know their job is actually contributing to the company's purpose. So the purpose isn't just on their own. Like they don't even know the company's purpose.
Right.
1 in 5 don't know their job is helping, and over 50% don't care.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just an astounding statistic. So I'll often, after I tell them that, I'll bring up a story from listening to some execs at Disney that I got to hear speak. And they're talking about, what do you notice about Disney parks? Even, forget all the people and the madness and all that, but what do you notice about the parks? And someone raised their hand, they're clean. Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. The janitorial staff knows the mission, the purpose of Disney is to make people happy.
Yes.
So the janitorial staff, which is, say, the lowest rung, knows that them keeping the parks utterly clean,
yes,
their job has a purpose. Their role serves a purpose in making the kids happy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to build on that Disney example, that as you go into Disney, you go through a tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
So that's called the happiness portal. And Disney's not the only place that has this idea of a happiness portal, but they were the ones who sort of made it a thing that people study. The idea is transitioning from your everyday world into a new and better place. And so what Disney does is think about what they need to provide on the other side. And as you transition, as you walk through that little tunnel, you are transitioning into their more perfect world. And even in Dubai, they have the that arch that frames the city.
Yeah.
Same idea. So this idea of in your company, how can you transition through a portal into the more idealized version of what you want it to be?
Yeah. I've walked through that tunnel a few times, and I didn't know that was what it was.
Yeah. It's called the happiness portal.
That's awesome. All right. So we burned through time. Great conversation.
Yeah.
For someone listening who feels successful on paper, but hollow in real life, what's the first thing they need to question or reorder?
I would recommend doing my Mad Libs purpose statement for a week. Every day, ask yourself, what is the one value that I want to prioritize today? What is the one gift that I want to put into action today? And who do I want to positively impact today? And you can put it into a really easy Mad Lib sentence. Because I value, I will use my gift to positively impact, and you put in the group. If you do that for just a couple days, you're going to begin to see what matters most to you. Now, you've got to be honest when you do this. This is not other people's values. These are not other people's gifts, but things that you actually want to bring to the day. And I would do it encompassing a weekend as well, because then you can see, am I making room for the things that do matter to me? Because at the end of the week, you may look at this and say, wow, there are a lot of other values that aren't on here. Am I spending my time in keeping with my values? There is a college classmate of mine and a friend of mine, Laura Vanderkam. She wrote a book called 168 Hours. You have more time than you think. And her newest book is Big Time. And her sort of gift to the world is track your time in 15-minute increments for a week. See where you spend your time.
I've done that time study forever. Here's what I added to it.
Yeah.
Energy. So I had 2 columns on that time study. I don't know if it came from her, but I had a longtime coach that made me do it.
Oh, awesome.
Often. And so I would do this and write out every 15, if you're in an hour-long meeting, you don't say, excuse me, Christine, I got to jot this down. Just at the end of the hour, you write it down. But one column, was it revenue producing? Because I was in a role where I needed to. So that was one column, yes or no. And then the column that I added most recently was energy. So I'd put a plus if it gave me energy, a minus if it was an energy vampire task or meeting or whatever, and an N if it was neutral. Because then I could line up, okay, was my time well spent, not only revenue and energy? And now when you have that week long, or my coach made me do it for 2 weeks because there could be an abnormal week, you can see, okay, how much of my time am I spending on stuff that A is revenue and B is energy giving to me.
Absolutely. And then if you wanted to take it, so if you do it in a spreadsheet such that you can group things and you can color code things, this is where I really nerded out. I color coded them based, so I could just see a visual of where I was spending my time as well. And when I first did this 10 years ago, it was at a period where I was overwhelmed at work, and I was always stressed. I was speeding because I was running from one thing to another all the time. And my coach had encouraged me to really sit down and do this. And then I asked myself, and I looked at my time diary, and I noticed that the reason why I was really stressed and struggling at work was because I wasn't really working that often for pay. I was spending all my time with my young children. Mm. And I looked at this and I realized, well, okay, that explains why I'm stressed out, because I'm not putting in enough time on the job. But then I said, is that in keeping with my values? Mm. And the answer was, yes, it is in keeping with I'm spending my time exactly where I want to be spending it.
So your feelings were like, I should be doing this. But when you checked or audited with your values, you got to a point of, no, this is what I need.
This is actually what I want to be doing, what I need to be doing, and what I think is important right now. Yeah. And so then I scaled back my work so that I could not be beating myself up all the time. And interestingly enough, I have a pretty good business. I give speeches to big companies, and I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job. And I don't do paid work that often because I want to keep it tight so that I can spend my time in keeping with my values, which is these 5 kids.
Yeah.
Right. And obviously, as they move on and they graduate and go to college, time's going to free up and I can spend more time doing more paid work. But what these time audits did for me when thinking about it in keeping with my values was it allowed me to say, oh, I am spending my time in keeping with my values. I'm just, as Stuart Smalley of Saturday Night Live would say, I'm shooting all over myself and telling myself that I should be doing something else.
Yeah. So good. So good. All right. So I always end with this question, and it could be on anything we've spoken of or just whatever comes to heart. But what's an unpopular belief you hold to be true that you think most would disagree with you on?
Oh, that most would disagree with me on.
What's what makes it unpopular?
Yeah. This is an excellent question.
I sometimes stump people.
You're going to stump. I don't know that the people really disagree with me on. Oh, I mean, well, actually, I can tell you one that's not on anything we've talked about. But I believe animal print is a neutral.
And I was not expecting.
And my daughters disagree with me on that. I believe that you can wear fabulous prints and animal prints with just about anything, and
so it's kind of like camo. Like
it's kind of like camo. Yeah. It's a neutral. I know. So you weren't expecting that one, but that's one that a lot of people do disagree with me on. But that especially in my middle age, I've decided I'm going to wear whatever I want, whenever I want, and be fabulous. And I believe that animal print is a neutral, so I'm going to go for it.
You should. That's how your authentic you. That's absolutely awesome. No, this has been such a fruitful conversation. That's probably our funniest one. I think on our unpopular belief. But
it's true.
It's true.
Thank you.
So you have Alex's approval. You can go back and tell your kids now.
Thank you. I will.
Spartans, you know what to do. Share this episode far and wide. We really thank Dr. Christine for coming out to the farm today, having some fun with us, dropping a lot of wisdom. Where can people follow you, reach out? Where would
Absolutely. You can follow me on LinkedIn and reach out to me via my website. And I would love to come to speak to any of their companies and to share more purpose-based solutions.
Awesome. And we'll have that in the show notes. Remember, the good and great are the enemies of possible. Lead like a Spartan today.
This is Sparta!